Where the Wild Things Are. Confused Matthew and Stan here. We literally, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but whenever we do one of these general reviews, we immediately stop watching the movie and come in here once it's done. So literally, it just ended for us. Yeah. So, every once in a while, I'll see a movie and then I'll say something about it immediately afterwards. And then as time goes by, I'm like, well, as I think about it, but I don't see that happening with this one because
it was really straightforward.
I do plan to see this a couple more times, probably not anytime soon. Yeah. But overall, I thought this was fantastic.
I thought it was really terrific. I thought there was really something special about it in the sense that, well, in a lot of different senses, but if you think about it, this isn't a special effects movie, first of all. It's not big, sparkling, crisp things on screen that the kids are going to gawk at and that sort of thing. There are weird-looking characters in this, but they're characters, and I was impressed. This movie was ambitious in the sense that it's a children's movie made for children that's about fear and anxiety and sort of bad feelings, and that this movie for kids had the wherewithal to say it's okay to talk about this. This isn't something that it's okay to watch this and deal with this and to acknowledge that this is something that children go through.
I had exactly the same reaction in the sense that I admired the courage that Spike Jonze had, and his co-writer, who unfortunately I don't know his name off the top of my head, coming up with the screenplay, because it's true to the book in the sense that the book was kind of about a child dealing with anger
and rambunctiousness, and
but this is dealing with a very unfortunate time in every person's life where you go from being a kid to suddenly not, but you're not a kid yet. You're just starting to realize that world is kind of not really there for you anymore,
and that the world that you're eventually going to enter into is you're sort of, you feel very vulnerable. It's a really uncertain future that we all go into.
It's very foreign to you because you're used to, at least people who had a decent normal upbringing would say, there was a time where I thought everything was going to be fine and everyone was going to be safe, and then suddenly not.
And suddenly I have to kind of look after myself.
And something as simple as the sun isn't always going to be there is enough to throw your whole world off balance.
It is, and I was going to say, when I was a kid, about the age of this kid, I was really disturbed when I learned that the sun was eventually going to blow. I mean, it's not going to happen for billions of years, but I was disturbed by the fact that, it really was one of those aha moments where things are finite. Things aren't perfect. We don't all, we don't get to live in a perpetual childhood where, we're taken care of by our parents. Or
you have this world where only the things that you want to happen.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
I really liked that. And they tried to build that place, and it didn't work.
What I like about this movie is, and I always say this, it seems like this is written by a kid, but what I usually mean by that is this is written by a moron.
Right.
This actually seems like it was written by a kid.
And the characters talked and really at the end of the movie, I was a little... were you choked up in a couple of parts?
Through a lot of this movie, I was, I must admit.
And he said so simple a thing when he was leaving. He said, when you go home, will you say good things about us?
Yeah.
And that was brilliantly childlike.
But if you think, in a way, this is a story about this kid kind of psychoanalyzing himself in a way, because he's putting himself in a world where everything that's happening in this world is happening to him, but he's looking at it from an outsider's perspective and saying, well, why can't we all just stay together?
Right.
And it's the other people who are saying what he's saying in his world, which is, it's not that easy.
It's not that easy, and he takes on sort of the role of his mother, in the sense that, in the main one, Carol, he said, you were supposed to keep us safe, and he tried, he failed.
But the interesting thing is, when he says, I wish you guys had a mother, he said that because he knew that's what they needed.
Yeah.
And as soon as he realized that's what they needed, he realized that that's what he needed.
Right.
And that's what he decided. I thought admittedly, for as little as is going on in this screenplay, it's a lot. But the thing is, it's a lot going on for a kid. It's not very much going on for an adult.
No, you're right.
everything in this movie is so important.
And I go back to that place, and I went back to that place, and I want to see if you had the same experience. And in the comments, I want to see if other people had this experience. I went back to that place when I was a kid, when, again, things were really scary, and they weren't certain. And it really did take me back to that place. And I have to say again, I am just blown away by this movie's just sort of the audacity of it, almost to say, we're going to talk about this. This is a movie for kids, and this is the subject that we're going to deal with, is fear and anxiety.
There are so many children's movies about the good aspects of childhood, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's fine, and that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are very good. There aren't very many children's movies that deal with this kind of a subject matter, because nobody does want to talk about it, because they kind of want to, and almost rightfully so, that they want to protect their children.
And they want to sort of minimize that going on in them.
Yeah.
You know what? Isn't it more helpful, I think, to acknowledge it, and for a movie like this to say, this isn't something that's just happening to you. It's okay to feel this way. It's just as much as the book did, to say, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be rambunctious. Yeah. In this sense, this movie is saying to children, it's okay. You can.
I also appreciate the fact that it's also saying you don't need to act out.
Right.
But it's okay to feel like you need to, but you don't need to be biting people, and you don't need to be throwing things, and it's a really interesting thing, because I don't know how children are going to react to this movie.
Me neither.
But my reaction was very much like yours. It was taking me back to where those little tiny things that seem so small and insignificant now were so important then.
Yes.
This is our analysis of that aspect of the film. In part 2, we'll talk about the film itself. Mm. I mean, this externally.
Right.
Yeah. What I find interesting is, for a movie that was not about the special effects, this had some damn good ones.
Oh, yeah.
And I happen to know for a fact that there were a lot of special effects artists and costume designers and makeup artists who didn't want to do this, because they brought the project to them and they said, I don't think this is filmable, and I don't want to embarrass myself. First and foremost being, I think it was the guy who did Chronicles of Narnia. I think he was the first one to turn this down, because he didn't think it would work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if I was in charge of special effects or that kind of thing, I might have had the same reaction. So really, no fault of theirs.
Yeah.
But I think this absolutely proved them wrong, because this worked perfectly.
It was really stunning looking, but again, in a very simple way. Less is typically more, and more is typically less when it comes to these kind of special effects in movies. These were really dialed down to the point where they were very real. The stuff, the creatures in this were very tangible, and I know that they were part CGI and part puppets.
And that to me works better every single time, when it's not 100% CG.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can use a real tangible thing, use a real tangible thing. That's what I prefer.
And it looks because it looks like he's surrounded by real creatures, because he is.
That's
I mean, with the exception of some of the facial expressions,
right?
Which you need to get that perfect in a movie like this, and they did.
They were so expressive. Yeah. Those the creatures. Excuse me. Let's talk about the structure of the film a little bit. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that much in the way of a traditional narrative.
No.
In the movie, it really it was very quick to get to the wild creatures.
Yeah.
And really everything that happened in the movie when he gets to the island until the time he leaves, it could have happened in any order.
Yeah.
It could have happened in any sequence, really. So
I thought the same thing. Yeah. But again, that is really that it seems like it is coming from the perspective of a child who's kind of making this up as he's going along.
And also that's, I wouldn't say this about too many films, but that's really not the point. The point is the emotions that are wrapped up in this thing, and the concerns that these people are very worried.
Yeah, they're all scared that they're losing their world, and they are. I mean, when you're a kid and you're going through that, you're losing your whole world.
That's right.
And I'm trying to compare this to another film in terms of what this film was trying to do and what it was trying to achieve. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Lilo and Stitch was the only thing that came into my head that was somewhat like this. where, she can relate to him because he's a kind of... they're both perceived in...
No, I'm talking
the
about
same way.
Something actually... facing the transition from child to something else.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and
I don't
think there's a single film that has ever done that before. And there's two reasons for that, I think. One, people don't think that it's important enough because, they're kids and it's this little thing and it's going to go away and they're going to deal with it eventually. And number two, that they really don't want to. And that's why I think Spike Jonze has done a very good thing here in actually having the guts to do something like that. There wasn't a single shot that I didn't like. There wasn't a single effect that I saw in this movie that I thought didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And... The fact that he's relying on these characters first, because every single one of these characters is, with the exception of the... I can't remember her name, but it was a representative of his actual sister in real life. Every other one of the characters is a representation of one of his the different kinds of his personality. Right. The one that nobody listens to, the one who everyone thinks is a downer, and the one who doesn't say anything. It was very good.
It really was. When they were having that dirt clod fight and the guy really got hurt.
Yeah.
You can imagine, and that we came over and he apologized. And it's like, that's when I told you to stop and you wouldn't stop throwing these at me. You can imagine that conversation taking place between any two kids.
You don't even have to imagine. It's taken place in
my own everybody's life.
Yeah. So I was delighted by this, and I loved watching it. There isn't really anything that I didn't like about this. I want to address one thing before we end, and it's going to be weird. It's very specific, because I've had a few people who saw the movie before I did. They said, I want to know what you think of the kid, because if you liked this kid, but you didn't like Simba,
your Simba thing,
I'm going to be confused. So I want to address that for everyone who wrote in, because a lot of people did this. Yeah.
Well, can I briefly give my take on that?
Let me give mine, and then you can give yours. The difference is Simba was a complete dickhead for no purpose whatsoever, other than maybe to get kids riled up in their seats about someone who they think is cool or they think is cute. I didn't think he was cute. I wanted to smack that smirk off of his face. But they did nothing with that. He's an asshole for the first third of the film. And then the rest of the 2/3, they never deal with that again. He never comes to terms with how he was as a kid.
No, he just reboots.
He just reboots and he moves on to I'm hiding and now I'm not going to hide anymore. So little asshole Simba is never dealt with. So he's in the movie for no purpose whatsoever. This actually has a point. And the thing, I will tell, for anyone who was curious, the difference between the two characters is the look on Max's face after he bites his mom. Like, he can't even understand why he did what he did. Yeah. And he feels bad about it, but at the same time, he has all these mixed up emotions.
And they're all sort of conflicting with one another. And the bottom line is, I would just add to that, the difference between Max and Simba is that Max has reasons for acting out the way that he does. He's not, aside from the fact, he's not a jerk.
And let me ultra clarify that, because everyone, I've had a couple of people say, well, Simba's a prince and this happens to royalty. So I want to specifically say, Simba has no reason to be the way he is that the movie ever addresses. That's the thing that people don't seem to understand. Yeah, maybe that happens to princes. I don't know. That's certainly not an issue that the movie tackled.
No, and you're right that the whole point of this movie, of Where the Wild Things Are,